Greetings, everybody. My name is Bill Dendy, and this recording is done for the benefit of the 2024-2025 Audit Committee. And we have with us our internal auditor, Dave Stump, to talk about how we prepare for audits each year and what are the checklists that we go through to make sure that we're doing our job correctly. Dave?
Thanks, Bill. And I really want to thank my team, Regina, Kevin, and Kay, for all the work they do every year and putting this annual self-assessment together, the video presentation of not only the responsibilities of the audit committee members, but we'll also go through the responsibilities of the internal audit team a little bit later. Bill?
Great. Well, the first part of this presentation focuses on the committee's responsibilities, which are detailed in the audit committee charter and the code of policies. This is the 7th year that we are presenting this checklist. It is, in fact, a summary of how our committee has met its responsibilities during the past Rotary year, and also kind of a preview of the activities we'll be conducting this current Rotary year. The second half of this presentation focuses on auditing services responsibilities as part of the team's quality assurance and improvement program, which is presented in a similar way to the committee's checklist and is used to document the team's ongoing compliance with the IIA standards. Both of these checklists are refreshed on an annual basis and then presented to the committee at the beginning of each Rotary year. On the screen, you'll see some of the high-level bullet points for the Audit Committee Charter. The committee gets its mandate through its charter, which is in the Rotary Code of Policies under Section 31.088. The charter details the committee's purpose, its authority, the composition, the meetings of the committee, and the responsibilities. In fact, this responsibilities section has 6 different subsections that you can read on the screen here. And each of these subsections under the responsibility area has various tasks that need to be completed by the committee each year. There are 29 separate tasks listed in the Code of Policies within the Audit Committee Charter. It should be noted that because of recent updates to the Charter, 3 additional tasks have been added to the last section titled Other Responsibilities to track annually. We will revisit these 3 latest additions later in the presentation. A number of years ago, past audit chair Bobby Barnes and the staff team created a simple checklist focused on the responsibilities section of the charter so that we can document how the audit committee completed the tasks that are listed in each of these subsections. On the screen, you'll see an example of what this checklist of responsibilities looks like. As mentioned earlier, on an annual basis, we provide a retrospective look at the work that the committee's performed during the previous Rotary year. This checklist also acts as a guide to our work that the committee will perform during the current Rotary year. As you can see, the responsibilities detailed on the left side of the screen. In the middle, we put a little X in the box that corresponds to the fiscal quarter in which the actions were taken, and we describe the actions that were taken to fulfill the responsibilities on the right side of the screen. For this example, we are taking a look at the responsibilities relating to the financial statements. You'll see there are 4 areas of responsibilities to review certain matters with management and the external auditors from Deloitte. And these were completed during the November 2023, 2020, and May 2024 meetings of the committee. We'll now bring up on the screen the full audit committee responsibility checklist, which is in Excel, and you'll see the same thing. You see the responsibilities section, each quarter they were completed, and the actions taken. Given that this is the 7th year in which we are documenting how these responsibilities were fulfilled, we're not going to spend time on every single responsibility. We'd like to highlight a few of them. Row 12, one of the items relates to recommending approval of the internal audit charter by the board. This item is under the internal audit function and is listed as the first of 9 responsibilities. And under this item, to recommend the approval of the internal audit charter, we see that the charter was provided to the committee at each meeting as part of the supplemental information in every advance memorandum. And the charter was formally presented to the committee for review and approval during the May 2024 meeting. Row 13, another item I will quickly mention is to ensure that there are no unjust limitations on our internal auditor and to concur in the appointment or the replacement or the dismissal of our general auditor. That's Dave. I'll point out that we document that the general auditor position here at Rotary functionally reports to the board and to the trustees through the audit committee. And Dave and his team administratively report to the Deputy General Secretary. On a quarterly basis, Deputy General Secretary Michelle Berg receives feedback directly from our audit committee to help complete an ongoing appraisal of Dave's performance. Row 17, the next item I'll point out is to review the effectiveness of the internal audit function, including conformance to the IIA's definition of internal auditing and the Code of Ethics, as well as the international standards for professional practice of internal auditing. And you will see in a moment how Dave and the team fulfill this responsibility via their own self-assessment checklist. On row 24, I want to mention that twice annually, the committee is provided opportunities to meet separately with the external auditors to discuss any matters that the committee or Deloitte auditors believe should be discussed privately. The reason for this is to provide an environment where open communication can occur between the audit committee and the external auditors. So you'll see we documented that the audit committee met with Deloitte auditors at both the November 2023 meeting and at the May 2024 meeting. Another responsibility, number 3, relates to the annual assessment of the audit committee charter to ensure that it remains complete and is in accordance with industry standards. A couple of years ago, a few updates were recommended, and additional 3 responsibilities were added to the charter and therefore also to this checklist, principally related to the committee's work with Rotary's annual Forms 990 tax filings with the Internal Revenue Service, Rotary's risk management practices, and referencing Rotary's whistleblower hotline. And you'll see these 3 listed at the bottom of this checklist, along with actions taken by the committee to fulfill these responsibilities. And on row 30, the final item I'd like to highlight for our responsibility to annually confirm is that all responsibilities outlined in this charter have been carried out. To support and complete this responsibility, the audit committee reviews this presentation of our checklist of responsibilities and actions taken during the 2023-2024 year. So that's a really quick overview of the audit committee's responsibilities and the checklist. The full checklist will be posted on the audit committee's team site and will certainly be included in the email with a link to this presentation so you can read through them at your leisure. I'll now turn the mic over to Dave to highlight the audit services portion of the presentation. Dave?
Thank you, Chair Bill. And well, similar to the committee, we in auditing services, we've got our own charter and code of policies. That governs our function. It contains our mission, our scope of our work, our role, and our authority. Our charter actually provides for our independence and our objectivity, our organizational reporting structure, and our reporting responsibilities. And it states that we will meet or exceed the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing of the Institute of Internal Auditors. You'll hear me talk a lot about the IIA. And one of the items in the standards relates to internal audit shops like ours at Rotary and having a quality assurance and improvement program. The standard itself states that the chief audit executive, that's what the standards call somebody in my position, must develop and maintain a QAIP that covers all aspects of the internal audit activity. And the QAIP must include both internal and external assessments. So what have we done regarding our assessments? Calendar year 2022 represented the 5th year since the last time we had an external quality assessment of the internal audit department. So shops like ours are required by the IIA standards to have an external quality assessment performed at least once every 5 years. A previous general manager at Rotary once asked me, if you guys are auditing all of us, who the heck audits you? And I was happy to reply that an external independent assessor actually audits us every 5 years. And we received satisfactory results from those assessments. In May of 2022, the audit committee selected an independent firm to conduct this external assessment of our operations according to the standards. And actually at the time, the committee received 2 separate assessment reports. One directly from auditing services on the results of our own self-assessment, as well as a separate report from the external assessor with their overall rating and recommendations. Their report assigned us a rating of generally conforms to the professional practice, but that's actually the highest rating that you can get from an external quality assessment. But they also noticed an enhancement to our internal audit program maturity level from established to progressive, or basically from a 3 to a 4 on a 5-point scale, based on all the enhancements that we've made to our auditing methodology, our practices, some improvements we've made to our report writing, and improvements to our follow-up of open audit recommendations and management action plans. So to document our continued commitment to performing internal self-assessments, the team put together, with heavy lifting by Regina, a checklist of the IIA standards and the actions that we've taken during the year to fulfill those responsibilities. So although our next external assessment isn't really needed to be conducted until calendar 2027, rest assured that we're going to continue to conduct our own annual quality assurance and improvement program and our own checklist to evaluate our work against the standards of the IIA. So in a similar fashion to the committee's checklist, this checklist shows the individual IIA standards and the responsibilities over on the left. But in a similar manner, in the middle, we put a little X into the quarters where these responsibilities were completed. And then we describe the actions that we took as an internal audit group and the evidence of the actions to show how these responsibilities were fulfilled. So I'm now going to bring up on screen the full auditing services checklist of responsibilities and the actions, which is also in Excel. And you can see the same kind of thing. You can see the standards on the left, the quarter in which these things were completed, and on the right, the actions that we've taken. Now, these standards, they're separated into the 1000 series and the 2000 series of standards. So starting at the top, actually on row 6, I want to highlight the purpose, authority, and responsibility of the internal audit function, which comes from the Charter of Auditing Services, which is codified in Rotary's Code of Policies under Article 67. It's titled Audits. Both the charter for the audit committee as well as auditing services are reviewed and approved on an annual basis, and the evidence that we completed this responsibility is that the last review and approval was obtained from the committee during its May 2024 meeting. I also want to point out the standard for independence and objectivity on row 8 here. And this is confirmed annually also via the review and approval of the charter, as well as having the committee approve the annual internal audit plan, which was also completed during the May 2024 meeting. Our standard indicates that our activity needs to be independent, and we have to be objective in performing our work, and that my position, again, referred to here as the chief audit executive, must report to a level within the organization that allows us to fulfill our responsibilities. And we complete this by functionally reporting to the board and the trustees through you, the audit committee. And as Chair Bill mentioned, we report administratively to the Deputy General Secretary. Moving on to row 13, I wanted to highlight this standard that indicates the responsibilities of proficiency and due professional care and continuing professional development, which you can read through the actions taken to evidence our fulfillment of these responsibilities. But rest assured, the team and I maintain our professional development requirements to uphold our certifications within the IIA. Moving on to row 21, I'm going to move into the 2000 series of the standards, which principally relate to managing the internal audit activity, and just mention such responsibilities as creating the audit plans, communicating and approving those audit plans, assessing and assuring the right resources are available to complete the audit plan, and making sure we establish our own departmental policies and procedures to guide the overall internal audit activity. On row 33, we talk about the engagement planning in the 2200 series of the standards. And that includes things like planning considerations, developing the engagement objectives and the scope of the engagement, and again, the resources that will be allocated to these engagements, and even the work programs to achieve the engagement's objectives. As evidence, all of our planning documents and our fieldwork activities, including our audit programs, our testing documents, and the support, are all maintained in a program called Teaming, which is our internal audit application for maintaining our electronic work papers. A little bit farther down on row 39, the 2300 series of standards refers to the responsibilities in performing audit engagements and identifying information, performing analysis and evaluations, recording that information, and supervising the engagement, which leads us into the 2400 series, which is to communicate the results of the audits. I mentioned our audit evidence on each engagement are the work papers, which we maintain in teammate. And the results of our audits are then communicated to the full board of directors, full board of trustees, the audit committee, and the operations review committee, along with the executive management team and any members of the engagement entity that we were auditing. And this is all done in accordance with the auditing services charter in the Code of Policies, section 67010. Moving a little further down to row 51. Throughout the year, we monitor the progress of all of our audit results and the recommendations that were provided to management as part of our engagements. On a monthly basis, we document and update these management action plans, and we maintain those updates directly in teammate. So that is a really quick overview of the work that we do within auditing services and certainly the audit committee. I'd like to turn it over to Chair Bill for some final remarks.
Hey, thank you, Dave. And that's a wonderful overview of the checklist of the audit committee and the internal auditing group that you oversee. I want to thank everybody that's decided to participate this year on the audit committee. It's a major job. It's so important to maintain our great reputation within the world. The auditing committee has a very large scope of responsibilities. I encourage you to take a look at this checklist as well as the audit committee charter. If you have any questions, feel free to call me directly. My phone number is 214-912-1106. Anyone on the committee can contact me or Dave at any time with questions or clarifications on our scope of responsibilities and what we're doing. And if you have concerns or feel like maybe we're missing an item that should be on a checklist, we're very open to including it because we want to do the best job possible for this organization that we all love. Our first meeting of this year will be on Wednesday, September the 11th, starting at 7 a.m. Central Time, Evanston time, via Zoom. We'll get you an email with that information, as well as other nice resources that as an audit committee member that you may want to be familiar with before our first meeting. Look forward to seeing you there. Until then, God bless you, and I'll see you on the 11th of September. Thank you, Dave.